Welcome to AgriTalk, and thank you for joining us this evening. Today on this conversation, we are talking about agribusiness and why agribusiness is important for every farmer out there. And with me in studio today, I'm joined by Benard Abok, who is the founder of Benard Agriculture. Welcome to the show, Benard.
Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what Benard Agriculture does.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name, as you have said, is Benard Abok, and I work with Benard Agriculture. Benard Agriculture is a consultancy firm which is in agribusiness. We offer end-to-end services, that is from production to the market. And what we realized before we could get into getting to register Benard Agriculture is that we were before in consultancy farming, where we train farmers. We do basically almost everything to help a farmer realize a good produce. But later on, we would get a call that, oh, Mr. Bok, my tomatoes are ready for harvesting. Do you have the arm of selling, which is Benard Exporters Limited, which is dealing both locally and with foreign markets.
Okay. Yeah. So, Benard, when we talk about agribusiness, what is it exactly?
Agribusiness is a very wide term. I think most people are using it to replace agriculture. But agribusiness is just agriculture plus business. So it's just the usual farming, but now combined with the business aspect. So we are talking about farming as a business, now agribusiness.
Okay.
Yes.
So every time I go to my farm, I should be thinking, where will I take this at the end of the season? Or what is it that I'm going to do at the farm? How is it going to bring money to my pocket?
Yeah, you are right. First, of course, we need to take the outside-in approach in farming, where we take the needs of the market, bring it back to the farm, and produce what the market wants. But you find that most of us are doing our inside out, where we are producing, then push it to the market. We don't know whether the market is going to accept it or not. Because we have produced it, we have to sell it anyway, and that's where you realize that most of the time you sell at a price which you didn't anticipate, because you produced not for the market but by yourself for a specific reason which might not be known by the market. So under agribusiness, first, when you are setting out to farm, you need first to know. For example, those who are, I'll take an example, those who are doing maize farming. You need to know, for example, for me to produce a goro of maize, how much am I going to incur for me to produce this? Common scenarios are we, most of the time we produce, let's say a kilo of maize at a price or at a cost much higher than the price we shall sell it at a market price. Yeah. So under agribusiness, we just have to take every cost, every step for it to make that business sense. In other words, if I produce with 10 bob, then I should sell at 12 or at 10.5 or at 11 for me to make business sense of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the way you've used maize as an example, because every year we've seen these long queues of trucks and lorries and tractors at the NCPB depots trying to deliver grain at a particular price. Most of the time they complain it's not the price they wanted. What do you think has always been our problem, especially when it comes to maize as a country? Because this is a country whereby we just grow maize every year. Even now, as we talk, people have prepared their land to grow maize, but they are not bothered about where it's going to go at the end of the season.
Yeah, I would start by addressing your last statement where people are preparing land to farm maize, yet they don't know where the maize is going to. Number one, maize is our staple food, and therefore whether we know the demand or not, we know that you and I will have to eat at the end of the day.
Yes.
Number two, I'll give you an example. Last year, I spent much of the time doing maize farming because I grew up seeing my parents and my grandparents doing maize farming. And I went back to do maize farming as a business. And I realized that I just did 4 acres. And I realized that any maize farming that is less than 5 acres or 10 acres is not a business
viable
at all. It's not viable. And I can tell you the amount of money you are spending to produce maize, you'd rather use it to produce something else. Why? Because of the cost of production. Last year and this year are somehow different because last year, towards the end of the year, the cost of fuel was a bit bearable. But this year we have seen an increase in the prices of fuel. Maize farming, it's very, very common with us because it is part of what we grew up knowing. And again, as I said earlier, it is one of the staple food. And most people are doing it because they cannot do, they cannot do something else, but they've not been educated enough that instead of doing maize, you can as well do something on relatively smaller piece of land, which can generate even 10 times what you are getting from maize. Yeah.
So let's stick on maize a little bit. Because I'm also interested in this, where I come from. A lot of people keep growing this maize, and I keep wondering, you have an acre and you always insist you want to grow maize. Isn't that tradition of growing maize our downfall in terms of we cannot look at it as an agribusiness? We are looking at it as it's our moral authority to grow maize every year, to produce food, not just for you, but for the community.
Yeah, I would say farming maize is good, and it is good for our food security because whether it's good for our food security. Number two, you realize that whether we do farm maize or not, the government will still find a way of getting maize from outside of the borders. So it goes back to the government policies that are in place. It is not our undoing per se, but we have also to rope in the government so that maize farming becomes more profitable to the Kenyan farmers. Why would I buy maize, for example, in our neighboring country, Tanzania, especially at a time when, say, a kilo of maize here in Kenya is going for 45 shillings, and I'll still get it in Tanzania at 18 or 20 per kilo. So it goes down to those factors that really affect the production of maize. Of course, we have climatic conditions which might not be an issue, especially in certain areas of Kenya. But of course, we look at the inputs, farm inputs. You've talked about, we are talking about the government subsidized fertilizer. How subsidized is it? How, okay, for example, it's supposed to be sold at price X, but do farmers get it at that price X at the end of the day?
In fact, this year, they are not even giving it out. The government did not import that fertilizer in the first place.
Yes.
So they opened it to market forces, business people to import fertilizer and sell it to the farmers. So the cost of that, and also the seed also is not subsidized. And I'm doing less than an acre or even 2 acres. Does it make economic sense?
It doesn't. Before we even go further, I'll continue to use my scenario. I went to where they collect fertilizer, and I was so much surprised that the fertilizer which we are supposed to get under subsidy is not there. But there is another set of fertilizer which is in store in plenty, but it is not part of government subsidy. So if you miss the government one, they are telling you, hiyo imeisha lakini kuna ingine hapo, which you can also get. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they make sure that the price is a little higher, but not that higher compared to the subsidized one. Now, I was taught always that start something that you can complete. In other words, if I make you get used to something, I should always make it available at all the time. Mm. Now, talk about an availability of that subsidized fertilizer. Forget about that. Even the subsidized one, sometimes you find it way after planting has been done. You need DAP to plant, but you go to the stores, you can't find it. You'll find it 3-4 weeks after planting. Then talk of top dressing. You'll find it way much later. Like the last season in our area, we do 2 seasons. We were to get it early September. Now they were there mid-October. For what purpose will it be for? Especially for that. So this year is not going to be a very good year. We have a prolonged drought in most parts of the country. And again, there is no subsidy in terms of seeds and fertilizer. So basically, Kenyan farmers are on their own.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we need to have that conversation again, especially on the economies of food production.
Yes.
What makes sense and what doesn't make sense.
Yes, sure.
Well, I'll call you back for that one. Let's go back to our topic.
Yes.
You said agribusiness is a wide field.
Yes.
So how many types of agribusiness are out there?
There are like 1,000 or even more than 1,000 of them. Because when you talk about agribusiness, someone who is just talking seeds is in agribusiness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the seed producers are also in agribusiness. You go to agrovets in towns and whichever places, they are also part of the agribusiness chain. Mm-hmm. You talk of now the major subsectors in farming, for example, livestock, you talk of aquaculture, you talk of horticulture, floriculture. All these are agribusiness sectors. So you can talk of it until tomorrow, yet you'll still be talking about agribusiness. Someone running posho mill, Kisiagi, yeye pia ako kwa agribusiness because he is along that chain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. I totally agree with you. Whoever is in manufacturing, as long as they are either producing feed,
yes,
they're in agribusiness.
Yes.
Okay. So, how does agribusiness work? And let's focus on a small-scale farm, if possible.
Let me take an example of a crop like onion, kitungu, and I'll use it to illustrate how agribusiness works. We started by saying that agribusiness is doing farming as a business. Mm-hmm. In other words, we talk of agriculture and business, which is relatively or somehow a newer term in our country compared to years before. For me to produce a kilo of onion, I need to take stock. What do I need in terms of land? Is it my own land? Am I leasing it? And if I'm leasing it, at how much? So I need to factor in that cost. I need to factor in the cost of what is called the cultural practices, that is land preparation in terms of primary tilling, secondary tilling, and now doing beds. If you have to do irrigation, etc., all those costs. And now I'll also have to focus and project how much will my produce fetch at the end of the season. So agribusiness will be a success if my cost of production are less than the market price. For example, I'll use another example in Kenya here. In Kenya, compared to Tanzania, in Kenya, we produce a kilo of onion with around 25 shillings. In Tanzania, is around between 8 to 15 per kilo. Now, it can only make sense if my selling price is higher than the cost of production. Mm-hmm. That is when agribusiness works.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other thing outside of that is just purely farming for prestige. I have a farm in Isinya. I'll go there with my friends. Over the weekend, we do nyamas and view the kitungus the way they are doing and come back to Nairobi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me take you back on that issue of the cost of production in two neighboring countries.
Yes.
Why do we find ours very high?
Well, they call Kenya first world in East Africa, so probably every other coast in relation to the three economies, Kenya of course has to be higher. Mm-hmm. Kenya has to be higher because of reasons we may not know. We are very ambitious as a country, and therefore even taxes and every other thing are so high. Cost of fuel, I think, is affecting everything across the board. Yeah, so okay. Look at that. Just use cost of fuel as an example across the three countries, and you'll probably realize why we are the way we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what could be some of the advantages for our farmers to learn how to do their farming as an agribusiness?
Of course, every single person, whether employed or unemployed, would want to do business. Why would you go to the bank to borrow money to go and open kinyozi or saloon somewhere, and as opposed to going into farming? Now, we look at farming as a backbone of our economy. In fact, 25% of our GDP is derived from agriculture. Now, it's high time all of us adopt agribusiness as a way of farming moving forward. Because I would say I have a farm somewhere, maybe 1 acre, 2 acre, but I don't want to do farming. I still go and borrow money or get money or draw my savings to go and open a totally different business elsewhere. So for the advantages of farming, of agribusiness, I don't want to dwell so much on the advantages because there are so many other factors that we need to take into consideration before we can talk of enticing people to get into agribusiness. I can tell you there are thousands and thousands of cases outside there of people who are cursing farming. I will never get into farming again in my life. Thousands of them. Yeah. Yet agribusiness works. So number one advantage is it's a familiar field that we can easily get ourselves into, but of course with the guidance of the experts in the field. I can tell you agribusiness is the only field or the only profession where all other professionals in the world think they are also professionals in farming. Where a doctor goes to the farm and he doesn't want to involve an agronomist. But an agronomist cannot go to a hospital to treat someone. But doctors, accountants, all these people, they don't want to involve experts in that. So that familiarity of the field starts with what you know, which is farming. So I would rather get into farming as a business as opposed to are going to open maybe maybe a shop somewhere or a kinyozi or a saloon somewhere because I have more information about farming compared to these other fields. And number two, when we do farming as a business, we are going to create jobs around us. We are going to create jobs for so many people. We are talking about so many youths coming out of the learning institutions, but there are no jobs. But if you look at how their fees were paid, they were paid by farming enterprises back there in the villages. So if only we can use these, then we can expand the job market that we have and of course we talk about boosting and increasing food security. When you do it as a business, there's that level of efficiency that is achieved. And therefore what an acre could produce, when you do it as business, you can produce like 1.5 or 2 times that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Abok. I'm told we should take a short commercial break, but then we'll be back and continue this conversation. It's very insightful. And I hope our viewers also at home are learning something. Today we are talking about agribusiness and why is it important for you to grow whatever you grow, keeping whatever animals you're keeping. Look at it as a business, not as a hobby. We'll take a short commercial break. When we come back, Abok will be telling us much more about why is it important to.
Are you looking for a job? Or do you have a job opening and looking to hire? Well, look no further, because all thanks to the Standard Jobs, your search ends here. The Standard Jobs, the all-inclusive platform that helps bring together potential employees and employers, has a wide pool of talent and opportunities to pick from when it comes to finding what works for you. From blue to white-collar jobs, we've got them all. And that's not even the best part. For just 5 shillings per alert, we'll notify you of any opportunities coming your way, giving you the power to pick what works for you. Usiwachwe nyuma, grow with the Standard Jobs. Kazi sio kutafuta kazi. Visit jobs.standardmedia.co.ke and get hired today. For inquiries, call 0719012211 or email jobs@standardmedia.co.ke. The Standard Jobs. Find what works for you.
Value your feedback and welcome any comments, queries or complaints regarding our programs. You can get in touch with us on SMS 22071. Call us on 0719 012 450. You can also send us a letter on our post office box 30080-00100 or deliver it to our offices at Standard Group Center, Mombasa Road, Nairobi. Cows can see almost 360 degrees. This near panoramic view lets them watch for predators from all angles. However, they don't see well straight in front of them, so they will typically turn their head to look at you.
Climate change has greatly impacted and changed our usual ways of farming. Here, we take the responsibility to bring you experts who bring you information and teach you on how to farm in a successful and profitable way.
Most farmers now have gotten a lot of fresh pedigrees and 75% crosses. And in the market, they're getting better money, up to 200,000 shillings per animal.
Catch Get It Right every Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. on Farmers TV.
If you're rearing them for meat, you can give them chick mash and then normal growers for a week and then finisher. You can slaughter them at 49 days, that's 7 weeks.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. Today I'm with Benard Abok, the founder of Benard Agriculture. And today we're talking about agribusiness. Why is it important to do our farming as an agribusiness? Before we went on a break, Abok, you're telling us the benefits of farming while knowing where this crop is going to or where the market is. But the last 1 year has been very difficult for all of us, not just farmers alone, because of the COVID pandemic. How do you think that one affected food production and agribusiness around the country?
I would say COVID came with its own challenges. At the same time, it brought some blessings. You know, when you are bereaved, there are those people who are also in business. Yeah, so COVID as a pandemic came last year in March. Yeah, that is when it was heavy in Kenya. And farmers were not that heavily affected because you remember the lockdowns and everything. We have the supply chain, which was somehow disrupted because of the lockdowns, and you need to get clearance from this authority to the other, and some farmers opted to sell at a local market because some of these produce they produce perishable, cannot wait for the authorities to issue you with that. That one created shortage in a lot of many markets in the city, for example. And therefore, for those who are able to get into these markets, were able to sell at a relatively higher prices. So in that sense, it was a blessing to these people who manage. But again, it was also a challenge to those who are not able to acquire clearances to pass from one roadblock to the other until it was very clear that this is essential service. Number two, we also talked about so many countries. You realize that we import a lot of our farm inputs, and there were a lot of lockdowns and no transportation from one country to another. That one also made some prices of some farm inputs to a little bit go high because of the scarcity. Again, talk about that ripple effect will be realized at the end of the chain, which is the produce in the market. COVID at the same time created demand for specific food produces. For example, you talk about ginger, you talk about lemon. Ideally, we never consumed lemon and ginger the way we consume it now because of the demand that created by COVID itself. There were a lot of challenges, but with time, some other people also predicted that by the end of 6 months we might have a shortage in food supply. But again, the government moved quickly to address that, and we didn't realize a lot of challenges in terms of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Abok, there's also something you mentioned, the triangle of success. Is it successful agriculture? Please take us through that. From the way you put it, it sounds like it's the silver bullet to agribusiness.
Yeah, farming, so many people or Kenyans would go to farming because you have piece of land and you have maybe money to buy like a irrigation system, and you forget to take other two factors into consideration, where you have logistics and then you have the markets. At one point I told you that we need to take outside-in approach in farming. Do your research. You don't need to target Nairobi market when you are producing 400 kilometers away from Nairobi. Do your research around your place. You'll find that there is a specific produce that is coming way far from where you are, and it is not produced locally. That one will inform your decision on what kind of agribusiness to get yourself into. Like where I come from, eggs come from all the way from Uganda or even from Thika. And it gets there. Why can't I rear chicken and produce eggs and sell to the people around my place? So when we take outside-in approach, we'll be having a very easy time in selling our produce. So the icons in the of this triangle of successful farming, we talk about production, talk about logistics, and the market. I'll start with production. You may have a very efficient logistical system and a very good market, but you don't produce what is best fit for that particular market. So you need to take all the factors around production, which is starting from the soil, the choice of seeds, the kind of nutritional program you are going to put in place, the kind of irrigation or sources of water you are going to have, and of course you are talking about the harvesting and post-harvest handling procedures that you have. From there now you talk of logistics. You may have very beautiful products at the farm level. There are no roads, there are no vehicles to take your produce to the market. They'll be just beautiful, nothing. They're just there, but they cannot help you. Now you go to logistics. If the transportation system is not, again, efficient, for example, it might be there but very expensive. It will only increase the cost of the produce, or it may increase the cost of the produce, yet at the same time the market price is not what you are what these other factors are forcing you to sell at, and therefore you are forced to sell at the farm level as opposed to reaching the market because of the inefficiency of the transport system between you and the market. Now, most people today, and even at the farm level, you talk about brokers coming in because they're the ones controlling this bit of logistics. But as a farmer, if you have your own logistical system, we'll also address the issue of brokers in the markets that we have. But if you create your own market, then you realize that you may eliminate this broker at the end of the chain. I'll give you an example just briefly. In 2014, I used to do a consultancy for some farmers way in Samburu. And after training them, it was a 3-month training. After training them, and now the produce is ready, they called me. Whatever we plan to do with this produce, we have more. So do you have a market for that? So the last week I was going for this training, we had a small car that is Nissan Wing Road. And when I got there, I found a lot of tomatoes ripe, ready for consumption. And you know where Samburu is and where we are. So I just told them, give me 6 crates. I go try. Then if I'm successful, I will come back. I came to Nairobi. At that time, I was in a small house, a bed sitter, on 6th floor. Nikapanda na nyanya yangu nikaeka ndani because I was also not sure of their security outside. The following day, I called a few mama mbogas. They come and told, oh, this one is too ripe for us. We cannot take it. Now I asked myself, I've taken tomatoes from these people. They need me to send them some money. And here I am. I'm stuck with them. I just thought quickly and looked around, and I called a Mukokoteni guy. You come. And there was Chelsea playing Arsenal in the evening. So I was also trying to squeeze myself not to go beyond 6 because I wanted to watch the game. So I told Kyoko, let's go and sell these tomatoes. And Kyoko told me I just need a little bit of jam starting my then we go. And it started right at the gate of the apartment. Yeah. And from that gate we sold 2,000 shillings where I stay. Then by the time we were at like a kilometer away, we had sold 4 crates. I was left with 2. Now when we went to now a stationary place we cleared at 5:30, I went back to the house, I showered, and I went to watch football with 15,000 shillings in my pocket. Yeah. So that tells you that the market is there. You can create it around where you are. If I know you consume it and I consume it, then we form the first layer of the market that I should be addressing. And I was told that that is in school. One cardinal rule: when you are new in farming, produce something that your neighbor can consume. So that when you don't find market in Dubai or in whichever place, you can sell it to your neighbor. You cannot fail to find a market for tomatoes, for onions, and all this. Then once you understand the dynamics of that, then now you can proceed and produce something that is not consumed in your locality. Okay. Yeah. Now I've addressed those 3 issues in brief. That is production, logistics, and market. But market is the icebreaker in all these 3. Because that is where money is. Mm-hmm. Production, you are producing. Logistics, you are getting money out of your pocket. But it's the market that is going to bring money back to your pocket, which is very, very important. Okay. And I think maybe next time just base your discussion on the topic markets, because money the farmers have. Mm-hmm. They have capital to produce. They cannot fail to take it to the market when they are sure they are going to get return on their investment.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to those 3 tips of the triangle. Let's go back to production. You talked about farmers also taking care of their soils. And I was asking myself, when is the last time I even saw my parents testing their soils? So doesn't it also start from the farm? Because what you are growing, your soils will determine whether it will actually produce enough or it will produce below average. So how important is the market, is production as compared to the market?
Yeah, land is a primary factor of production, very important. And in farming, now it is the foundation. There are pieces of land that have been tilled since I was born, 35 years ago. They have been literally tilled, and I've never seen a time where the piece of land is resting. And again, you'll find they are doing same type of crops all the time. Now you've talked about the health status of the soils that we are using to farm. It's very, very important that when we think of doing farming as agribusiness, we also start to think of these other issues, like testing your soil. Soils also get depleted, just like any other resource that is used continuously. By testing your soil, you'll be trying to look at three things. You'll be trying to look at the nutritional status of that soil. You'll be trying to look at the pathological aspects, and you'll also be trying to look at the structural bit of it. But of course, most of the time we only use topsoil to farm. Now, the nutritional and pathological bit are very, very important because they are crops that are in the same families, and they harbor similar pests and diseases. But I'll talk about diseases. That's why we test that. Now, if I do, for example, tomatoes, and I want to do capsicum the following season, I cannot do that because basically they share diseases, and I need to test the soil to ascertain whether there's residues of that in the soil. Number two, in terms of nutrition, when you test your soil, of course, you get the results, and you'll get to know which kind of nutrients and minerals are missing from that. Now, we just need to go back to reclaiming this land, these parcels of land or our farms. People have gone to a lot of usage of organic fertilizers, but we have our animals producing inorganic fertilizers. We have organic ones. We can use manure to reclaim the parcels of land. Now, when I was doing maize, I took some manure to the farm, and people are telling me, you are doing a lot of work. Why can't you just go to the shop and buy one bag, and that's enough? But I told them this one is going to improve the structure of this soil for a very long period of time. And they're the same people who are telling me now, hey, what have you done to harvest this much from your soil? So it's very, very important to do soil test before you do something else. I see you with the ring on your fingers. When I believe you did wedding, before you did that, you were told to go and do some tests.
Yes.
To ascertain whether you are okay for that, for that journey. Yes. It means that if they were not okay, you'd not be allowed. True. The same to farming. Go get tested, rekebisha, then now proceed when you are very sure, because you want to do it as a business.
Okay.
Yes.
Talking of the soils, there is a friend of mine from another station who did a very good story. But the topic she gave to her story was the dying soils. So I always sit there and ask myself, do soils also die? What is your take?
Yeah, okay. They die. Soils die.
There's life in the soil.
Yes, and yes, there is life. Unless we revive our soils, they will die, and they will continue to deteriorate and stop producing at all. Take those examples, and even where you are coming from. Before, when our grandparents were doing their farming, there were no such fertilizers, whether government or whichever. They were just farming, and they could get a lot. But with the time, because of repeated production until now, the nutrients are not there. Again, we have intoxicated our soils with the fertilizers that we are using. So we are literally killing our soils. I agree with that topic.
We've been killing our soils for a very long time.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go to the use of technology. How important is it? How important is technology when it comes to agribusiness, producing a lot of food in a small space?
Yeah, I'll talk of technology as innovations, and I'll also add something there as diversity. We have talked about dying soils, And we also have to take into considerations that we have increasing population. Our population is increasing. If your dad had 1 acre and now you have 4 boys, now you have to divide that. Each will have less than an acre because he also has to maintain some for his use. That means the amount of food we could produce in 4 acres can no longer be the same. And therefore we have to think outside the box. How do we make the space that we have efficient? And efficiency here is the number of uses we are going to put into action on this particular piece of land. If I used to do 1 acre of maize and my needs have gone beyond 40 bags of maize, then I need to find a way of increasing the productivity of the land, but I cannot increase what? The size of the land. Now, innovation, for example, I'll use irrigation, for example. Most of our farming practices are based on rain-fed agriculture. We have also global warming, which has caused a lot of unpredictability in the weather patterns that we have. So many boreholes are being done now. It's high time we adopt, and even through the government, they can also find policies to enable that small-scale farmer adopt technology in farming. When I produce under irrigation, I can produce anytime I want. And therefore, I'll not produce when everyone is producing. I'll do what is called market scheming and match my season with the season of the market. We are all expecting rains to come. We are going to start producing. We are targeting one market, all of us producing for this particular market. When the rains are done, we are back to scarcity of specific crops. So when we adopt technology, and especially irrigation, we can produce much, and we can produce and we can earn much more returns from a small piece of land. Now, when I go to diversification, in 2013, I visited my friend in Gatundu, and I found this guy on a half an acre piece of land. That is where the homestead is, and that is where he's doing all his farming activities. But within that area, the guy is able to make 300,000 per month from different ventures in the same piece of land. He has poultry, he has fish ponds, he has a small garden for vegetables, he has dairy, he has, we can call that, he has pigs, he has goats, all in the same piece of land. Mm-hmm. Yet someone is having 1,000 acres. These 1,000 acres, he has 100 heads of cattle roaming around, doing totally nothing. So it's not about the piece of land that you have. It's about how do you think, how efficiently do you use the piece of land to generate more income from the same piece of land. Land is decreasing, but our needs are always increasing.
Okay. Yeah. We all know that farming is a devolved function. It is now handled by the county governments. Where do these farmers get this information? All the information you've given us, where can they get it from?
It is very unfortunate that the extension system that was there when we were growing up, extension services are no longer there. And that's why I'm telling you, farmers are on their own. They are now left at the hands of non-governmental organizations, which are also, as much as they're improving the capacity of the farmers, they are also exploiting our farmers. They are making farmers to be dependent on them at all the time. So yes, the government should give this information. Unfortunately, they stopped that long time ago, and farmers are on their own. If you can get that, it's a privilege.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think if we introduce some of these lessons in school, it will go a long way in passing along this information?
Very, 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 very correct. I think I saw, if I'm not wrong, the reintroduction of 4K Club.
Yes.
Back to schools. Why do we think of reintroducing it? Because
there is a failure somewhere.
There is a failure somewhere. Agriculture is no longer there. Yeah? Yet we are encouraging our people to go into farming to create even employment for the unemployed. Now, go to high school. When you are in high school, agriculture was left to like wale wanafunzi wa shamba. Yeah, not for the elites from towns and so. I was in a town school somewhere, but I didn't do agriculture, but I could see that stereotype.
I did agriculture, and yes. I was being called Mshamba.
Yes, as a stereotype. Why do you do agriculture? And if you look at agribusiness, even as a course in higher learning institutions, it's a totally new idea. It's a totally new idea. Now, we just have to go back to basics. Agriculture has to be a value taught in us and through our kids from that very basic level.
Okay.
It has to start from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we wind up, what do you think is the future of farming in this country if we don't adopt agribusiness?
The future of farming is very, very bright. That one I can tell you. Because just the other time they did census, there were so many Kenyans born in the last 10 years. And it's going to continue. It's going to continue, and therefore population is going to increase. And every single moment you are eating, you are, we are told to eat like 3 times in a day. Of course, some go for 2, some go for even 5 times, but you have to eat at least something in a day. So as much as the population is increasing, we also need now to look for innovative ways of making farming to be a successful venture and even to encourage more people to get into farming. Young people do not want to get into farming because they associate it with failures and the old. But they want you to give them money, for example, to do what? To do other businesses. We have to make it a culture for people to understand that this thing has a future. And in fact, it is one of the sectors that has been projected to be very productive in the near future, starting today onwards. If you are not in agribusiness, you have to be either in stock or market, money market somewhere. Only 3 areas and real estate. Outside of that, wachana nayo. Okay. So we have a very bright future, and I encourage everyone, even for those who are doing farming, do not give up. It is a journey.
Okay.
Just trust the process.
Thank you very much, Abok. I think that's the best place to leave it. The future of farming is great, and it is the place to be because the population is growing. For our viewers back at home, today we're talking about agribusiness. And with me in studio, I was with Benard Abok, the founder of Benok Agriculture, was really giving us insightful information about why is it important for us to do farming as an agribusiness. That is it for today. Until next time, goodbye.